Have you ever been so certain of something that you'd stake your life on it, only to have that certainty ripped out from under you in an instant? That's what happened to me the day I picked up the first letter. She had looked me dead in the eye, brushed off my questions with a laugh, and said, "That's just my boss. Just her boss. Nothing more. A man she reported to, someone who signed her paycheck. Nothing worth my suspicion." And I believed her, or maybe I wanted to believe her, because the alternative would have meant the life I built with her was balancing on a lie so fragile it would shatter if I even breathed too hard on it. It was a Thursday evening, ordinary in every way. She'd rushed out early that morning saying she had to get to the office before anyone else to prepare for a big presentation. I kissed her on the cheek, told her good luck, and thought nothing of it. Later that night, when I went to her desk at home to find a pen, I noticed a stack of papers pushed carelessly to the corner. That was unusual. She was meticulous about her work, her papers always squared, her pens aligned, like her desk was an extension of her mind. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. I told myself I was just tidying, just moving things back where they belonged. But then I saw the handwriting. Not hers. His. Bold, looping script that practically dripped with confidence. At the top of the page, "My dearest," my blood ran cold. I picked it up, my hands trembling before I even read another word. It wasn't a work memo. It wasn't instructions. It was a love letter. A real, old-fashioned love letter, written on thick paper, the ink smudged in places where the pen had lingered. He wrote about the way she smiled when she looked up from her desk, about how her laugh carried through the office like music, about the nights they'd shared that still burned in his memory. And at the bottom, in bold strokes that made me sick, "Forever yours." I dropped the paper like it was fire. My heart was hammering, in my chest, my mouth dry, my head spinning. I wanted to believe it was some mistake, some ridiculous joke, maybe even some elaborate prank. But then I picked up the rest of the stack, 3 letters, 4, 5, all written by the same hand, all filled with the same sickening devotion. She hadn't hidden them well. They weren't locked away, weren't shredded, weren't even tucked into a drawer. They were sitting on the desk where I paid our bills, where I left her little notes, where we planned our future, as if she wanted me to find them, as if part of her enjoyed the thrill of almost getting caught. My first instinct was rage. I wanted to storm into the living room, shove the letters in her face, and demand an explanation, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the calmness of the words, the confidence with which he signed them, the certainty of their affair laid bare in ink. Confronting her in that moment would have given her the upper hand. She would have cried, denied, twisted. She'd say he was just being friendly, or that it was harmless, or that she never asked for it. And maybe, just maybe, part of me wasn't ready to hear the lies I knew she'd feed me. So I slid the letters back into place, exactly as I'd found them, and I sat at that desk for hours, staring at the wood grain, my mind unraveling everything I thought I knew. She came in later, cheerful, carrying takeout. She kissed me on the lips, asked how my day was, laughed at something on TV, and I just watched the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she crossed her legs on the couch, the way she scrolled through her phone. And all the while, those words burned in my head, "Forever yours." That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every late night she claimed was for work, every business trip that lasted 2 days longer than scheduled, every time she came home with that glow in her cheeks, and the faint scent of cologne that wasn't mine. The pieces slid into place like a puzzle I never wanted to finish. But once it started, I couldn't. The next day I started watching, quietly, patiently. I didn't accuse, I didn't ask questions, I just observed. I saw how her phone never left her side now, even in the shower. How she flinched when notifications popped up. How she mentioned him in casual stories more often than made sense. Always followed by, "But he's just my boss." Always with that little laugh, like she was already rehearsing the defense. I checked her emails when she left her laptop open. Buried beneath project files and schedules were notes, shorter than the letters, but no less damning. Lunch was amazing, counting the hours until tonight, and one that made me want to rip the screen apart. I can't believe we pulled it off right under his nose. Him. That was me. The betrayal wasn't just in the words. It was in the ease. The way they joked about it, as if my blindness was something they shared between them. Another intimacy I'd never been invited into. I didn't sleep for weeks. I'd lie awake at night, my body next to hers, listening to her breathe, wondering if she was dreaming of him. I'd wake up to her kisses, her soft good morning, and I'd smile back, even as my stomach turned. And yet, I didn't say a word, because I knew if I wanted the truth to come out, it couldn't be through an argument or a scream. It had to be undeniable. That's when I started gathering. Not just the letters, but the receipts, the travel confirmations, the notes. I copied everything. I built a folder thicker than any report she'd ever written for her job. And the whole time, I waited. I waited for the perfect moment to put it all in front of her, in front of him, maybe even in front of the people who thought she was someone else. And that moment came sooner than I thought. A company dinner. She insisted I come. Said it would mean a lot to her. I knew he'd be there. I knew they'd both play their parts. And I knew that was where the mask would finally fall. That's where part 2 begins. Not with suspicion. Not even with the first letter. But with the choice I made that night. To walk into that dinner with the folder under my arm. The letters in my hand. And the calm determination to end the lie in a way she could never recover from. I walked into that company dinner with a calmness I didn't recognize in myself. On the surface I was just another husband, dressed in a suit, showing up to support his wife at a work event. But underneath I was carrying a weapon far sharper than any blade. It was folded neatly into a leather folder tucked under my arm. A folder filled with the letters I had found, the emails I had copied, the receipts and travel confirmations she thought I'd never noticed. My heart was steady, my breathing even. But in my mind I kept replaying one line over and over again. Forever yours. The way he signed every letter. The way she let those words sit on her desk. In our home. Where I was supposed to be the one she belonged to. The venue was one of those downtown hotels, with chandeliers dripping crystal light, and servers floating around with trays of champagne. Everyone was buzzing, laughter rising, music playing softly in the background. She clutched my arm when we walked in, smiling up at me like the perfect partner, introducing me proudly to her colleagues. "This is my husband," she said, the words smooth, practiced. I wondered if her tongue burned when she said it, knowing what I knew. And then I saw him, her boss. The man she had dismissed with a casual laugh as just my boss. He stood across the room, glass in hand, surrounded by people hanging on his every word. He had that confidence about him, the kind of aura some men carry like armor. But when his eyes landed on her, just for a second, I saw the mask slip. His smile tightened, his gaze lingered too long. And she, God help me, she lit up like a girl seeing her lover, after weeks apart. It was subtle, too subtle for anyone else to catch. But I saw it. I had been trained by months of lies to see what others missed. We sat at a long table, her colleagues scattered around us, him at the head. Toasts were made, speeches given, glasses clinked. She squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes shining, like she wanted to prove to everyone, and maybe to me, that we were solid, unshakable. But her other hand, the one not in mine, tapped a nervous rhythm against her thigh every time he spoke. Finally, when the plates were cleared and the room had settled into that soft post-dinner murmur, I stood. "If I could have just a moment," I said, raising my glass. The room quieted, polite smiles turning toward me. She looked up at me, startled, a flicker of unease passing over her face. He shifted in his chair, watching me carefully. "I want to make a toast," I began, my voice calm, steady, "to honesty, because in life, in love, in marriage, honesty is supposed to be the foundation. Without it, nothing else matters." She smiled nervously, her hand tightening on mine. "That's beautiful," someone murmured. "But here's the thing," I continued, reaching into my folder. "Sometimes honesty is missing. Sometimes, instead of truth, what you find are lies hidden in plain sight. And sometimes those lies are written down." I pulled out the first letter, the one that had stopped my heart, the night I found it on her desk. I unfolded it slowly, deliberately, the paper crackling in the silence. And then I read aloud, "My dearest, every day, I see you at your desk. I have to remind myself not to give us away. Your smile is the light that keeps me going. I count the hours until we can be alone again. Forever yours." Gasps rippled around the table. Forks clinked against plates. She froze, her face draining of color, her hand jerking out of mine like I'd burned her. I laid the letter on the table, then pulled out another, and another. One by one, I spread them across the white linen, like evidence in a courtroom. These, I said, my voice low but carrying, were on her desk at home. Not hidden, not destroyed, just sitting there, from him, to her. Signed, every time, forever yours. The room was silent, except for the sound of her breathing, shallow and panicked. He shifted in his seat, his jaw tight, his hand gripping his glass so hard I thought it might shatter. She finally found her voice trembling. Break. It's not what it looks like. Don't. I cut her off sharply. Don't insult me. Don't insult everyone here. What it looks like is exactly what it is. Love letters. Affairs disguised as late nights at the office. Lies dressed up as business trips. You told me he was just your boss. But these, I tapped the papers spread before us. These say otherwise. Her colleagues whispered, their eyes darting between her and him, disbelief etched on their faces. Her boss tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. For once the man who always had the perfect line had nothing to say. She started crying, full sobs now, her body shaking, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. Please, she whispered, reaching for me. Please, don't do this here. Let's talk at home. I pulled back, my voice steady. This is exactly where it needs to happen, in front of the people you lied to, in front of the man you risked everything for, in front of the world you thought you could keep separate. The silence was suffocating. You could feel the air crackle with the weight of it. No one moved. No one breathed. Finally, I gathered the letters, stacked them neatly, and slid them back into the folder. I looked at her one last time, her face crumpled, her eyes begging. You wanted to play house with him while using me as your cover. Well, the game's over. And then I left. The night air outside was cold, sharp, but it felt cleaner than anything I'd breathed in months. Behind me, I could hear the murmurs rising, the whispers spreading, her sobs breaking through the noise. But I didn't look back. I walked to my car, opened the door, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The aftermath was chaos. She called for days, left voicemails that swung wildly between anger and despair. How could you humiliate me like that? She screamed in one. Please, we can fix this, she whispered in another. But how do you fix forever yours written in someone else's hand? How do you undo lies carved into paper? Her boss resigned weeks later. The scandal too loud to ignore. She lost more than her job that night. She lost her family's trust, her friends' respect, her mask, and me. I met with a lawyer. I handed him the folder, every page, every letter. He flipped through it quietly, then nodded. You're done here, he said. This won't take long. And it didn't. Months passed, people chose sides, whispers spread. The story morphed as stories always do. Some pitied me, some pitied her. But I didn't care anymore, because the truth was mine. I had pulled it out into the light, and in that light, I had finally seen her for who she really was. Sometimes, when people ask me what happened, I don't give the whole story. I don't need to. I just say, she told me he was just her boss. Then I found the letters, all signed the same way. Forever yours. And that's enough. Because everyone knows what that means. Everyone knows there's no coming back from that. She said he was just her boss. But in the end he was her forever. And she lost everything chasing it.